Hello friends, in this lesson we're going to be looking at acronyms and abbreviations. We use acronyms and abbreviations quite a lot in writing and in speaking, but when we use them in speaking it can be a bit confusing because we pronounce them and say them differently. Some common ones are for example. When we say for example, we just say for example, but when we write, often we use these two letters e.g. So the e.g. is coming from a Latin phrase, exempli gratia, which literally just means for example. So when I'm speaking, I say for example, but when I'm writing, I'll often just write e.g. because it's shorter than writing the words for example. Or another one is i.e. So sometimes when I'm speaking, I could say i.e., but often I'll say that is or in other words. When I'm writing, though, I can just write i.e., and it comes from Latin id est, which means literally that is, right? Or in other words. Another one that's common is FYI, for your information. So I could say for your information, but that's a lot of syllables. So when I'm speaking, I would just say FYI. It's also shorter to write FYI. So this is one of those abbreviations that we would both say FYI and we would write FYI because it's shorter. Or FAQ, for frequently asked question. So FAQs, you'll see them online all the time. But when I'm speaking, sometimes I'll say FAQ, sometimes I'll say frequently asked question. And other native speakers of American English will as well. So these expressions and these abbreviations you're probably already familiar with. So let's look at how we're actually pronouncing these or how we're saying these in spoken American English. There's different ways that we could do it. So one of the first ways is pronouncing it as a whole word. So if we see an abbreviation like TOEFL, TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language. But I don't say TOEFL and I don't say Test of English as a Foreign Language. Normally people say TOEFL. Because if you look at it, you can almost pronounce it like a word. TOEFL, I could just pronounce it as TOEFL. TOEFL is just 2 syllables, so it's easy to say. So you can take the acronym or the abbreviation and just pronounce it as a whole word. Or sometimes we pronounce it as a combination of a letter and a word. For example, if you look at the second one, IELTS, so which stands for International English Language Testing System. When people say this in spoken language, they'll say IELTS. So they'll say the letter I and then else, because we can pronounce the else part as like an English word almost. So it's a combination of letter and word. However, with ESL and EFL, people don't say ESL, they say ESL. So we're pronouncing each letter in the abbreviation. Or EFL, we don't say EFL, we say EFL. So we're pronouncing each of the letters, which is weird because if you look at TOEFL, we pronounce it as a word, but EFL, we pronounce it as the letters. So I'm going to go through a number of common acronyms and abbreviations in American English and give you their pronunciation. So you probably already know a lot of these. What I'm focusing on here is the pronunciation. So some general ones. Here we have degrees. So AA, standing for Associate of Arts, BA for Bachelor of Arts, BS for Bachelor of Science, MA, Master of Arts, MS for Master of Science, PhD for Doctor of Philosophy, and MD for Medical Doctor. So with all of these degrees, we'll just say the letters AA, BA, BS, MA, MS, PhD, or MD. AKA, we just say the letters AKA. It means also known as. So if somebody has like another name, like a nickname or something, we'll say AKA. ASAP means as soon as possible. We just pronounce it as ASAP. Sometimes people say ASAP. Hey, can you get me some water ASAP? Or we could say ASAP. I need that ASAP. Can you give me that report ASAP? AWOL. This is a military one, but sometimes it's used outside the military. So we pronounce it as AWOL. So there's a letter and then the word wall, which stands for absent without leave. Basically, if somebody should be somewhere and they're missing, we say that they're AWOL, especially at work, right? So you can say, hey, where's Doug? because I haven't seen Doug all day, right? Doug should be here at work. I haven't seen Doug. I say, hey, where's Doug? He's AWOL. He's not here. BC and AD, we use these with dates. So BC stands for before Christ, and AD stands for a Latin word or Latin phrase, Anno Domini, which means in the year of our Lord. It doesn't mean after death. So these are Christian designations for the years. So like right now, it's 2020 AD. However, in an effort to be more politically correct, these have changed in some textbooks to BCE and CE. They're the same numbering, but the representation, the abbreviation is different. So BECE or BCE stands for before the Common Era or before the Christian era, and CE stands for the Common Era or the Christian era. And we'll just pronounce the letters BCE or CE. With the BC and AD, the AD can be a little bit confusing when you're listening because it sounds like the number 80. So if you're giving a year, like if I say 2003 AD, then it sounds like 200380. But AD is just the meaning the year after Jesus. So BLT, here's a sandwich, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. So if somebody says they want a BLT, like if you're working at a restaurant, it's a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And we just say BLT. BO, body odor. It's the way that you smell. So if somebody says, whoo, you got some BO, or that person has BO, that means they smell, they stink because they're sweating or whatever. But we just say the letters BO. We don't say BO. We say BO. BRB, be right back. In speaking, I think people will just say be right back. We don't really say BRB in conversation. BRB is something that's usually typed, like in a text message or something. By the way. So if we're speaking, we just say by the way. We wouldn't say BTW. Because by the way is only 3 syllables and BTW is like 5 syllables. I just had to count it out. BPM is beats per minute. So you might hear this with music or with running or something like that. Heartbeat, your heartbeat for the number of beats per minute. So if we're speaking, we would just say beats per minute. BYOB, it can mean bring your own beer, bring your own booze, or bring your own bottle. But people will use this for other things as well. So if you hear BYO, it means bring your own. And then they'll have something after that. Like if you say BYO BBQ, it means bring your own meat to barbecue or something. CC and BCC, these get used on emails. The CC stands for carbon copy and BCC for blind carbon copy. So if I'm sending an email and I wanted to copy somebody on the email, I would put their name or their email address in the CC. Likewise, if somebody's sending an email to somebody else and you want them to send it to you as well, you say, hey, can you CC me on that? So you say CC. Or if you're sending an email out to a group of people, but you don't want everybody to have everybody else's email addresses, you'd say, hey, make sure to BCC that, blind carbon copy, because the BCC, it makes it so nobody else can see the other addresses that an email goes to. DOA means dead on arrival. This might get used in law enforcement with police if if there's a car crash and somebody died, the police might say they were DOA. The person was dead on arrival. That means when the police got there, the person was already dead. It can be used like in the medical field, like at a hospital or something. If somebody goes to the emergency room and they're already dead before they get there, then they're DOA. Or it can be used even in politics. Like if they're going to be voting on a bill and they know that the bill's not going to pass, they'll say it's DOA, it's dead on arrival. So when we're saying this, we just say DOA. DOB, date of birth. I don't think we say this one normally. We just say date of birth. You'll see it on applications. DIY. You'll hear this one a lot, DIY. There's even a DIY channel, I think, on television. DIY stands for do it yourself. So, for example, Menards or Lowe's or Home Depot, we would call those DIY stores because you go there to buy things to do projects yourself. Like if you're going to do something at your house, like paint or build something, we call it DIY, do it yourself. ER for emergency room. ETA for estimated time of arrival. This one will get used sometimes. In the military, it'll get used a lot. But if you're going to somebody's house for a party and you're not there yet and they're wondering where you are, they might text you and say, what's your ETA? ETA is how long before you get there, or how long before somebody gets there. And that's what we'll say ETA. FOMO. I've never heard this one actually spoken. I've just seen it written down. Fear of missing out. So if you see this abbreviation in a text or on social media, FOMO, it just means fear of missing out, when people are afraid that they're going to miss some opportunity. IMO or IMHO, I've never heard these ones spoken. I've only seen them written down. So they're not really spoken things. IMO is in my opinion, and IMHO could be in my honest opinion or in my humble opinion. JK for just kidding. Sometimes people will say JK, but more often they'll just say just kidding. LGBTQ. This one, you might hear LGBT, you might hear LGBTQ, you might hear LGBTQ plus. Stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, etc. So that the plus is meaning etc. So all of these different, sexual identity minority groups. LOL or LMAO. So LOL, people will sometimes say LOL, which is kind of weird when they do it though. So LOL means laugh out loud, and then LMAO is laughing my ass off. MPH for miles per hour. People don't often say MPH. They'll just say miles per hour. OMG for oh my God. Sometimes people will say OMG. OBO or best offer. You'll see this one when somebody's selling something like on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. If you see OBO, it means or best offer. So if they're selling a TV and they say $100 OBO, it means the price is $100 or whoever offers the most money for it. PS, you'll see this in emails and in letters. It means postscript. So you'll see it after somebody, if they write like an email message and then they sign their name at the bottom and then they remember something that they wanted to say, or they want to say something extra below their name, they'll write PS and then they'll say what they want to say. PTO could mean either paid time off or please turn over. So just pay attention to the context. So if somebody's talking at work and they say, I only have 3 days of PTO, obviously they mean paid time off. But if you're looking at some kind of a piece of paper and the piece of paper says PTO, that means please turn it over. RSVP, you'll hear this one spoken. If people are inviting other people to a party, they'll say RSVP. It comes from a French phrase, which I cannot pronounce. Respond, s'il vous plaît, I think, which literally just means please respond. So if you see this written down, RSVP, it'll be on an invitation. Or if somebody says RSVP, it just means that they want you to let them know if you will be coming or won't be coming, so that they know how many people are coming. SSN for social security number. People will just say social security number, but in writing you might see SSN. TBA, to be announced. TGIF, people will just say TGIF. It means thank God or thank goodness it's Friday. There's actually the restaurant TGI Fridays, right? TLDR, too long didn't read. I've never heard this one spoken. I've only seen it written down. And people will put this oddly. If somebody links to a news article, in the comments, people will put TLDR, like the article was too long, so I didn't read it, which I find odd because they take the time to write this, even though they didn't take the time to read the article. VIP means a very important person. So you'll see this sometimes like at public events. There's a VIP section, or if you see the letters VIP, that means it belongs to a very important person. VRBO is vacation rental by owner. So people will just say VRBO. And YOLO. People actually just say YOLO. You only live once. So those are some common acronyms and abbreviations for just general things. Now I'm going to go through a few for organizations you might hear about or read about. First one, CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. We just say CIA. The DA is a district attorney. DEA is the Drug Enforcement Administration. So if you're reading or listening to news where they talk about drugs, you'll probably hear the word DEA. DNR, Department of Natural Resources. So like here in Minnesota, you'll hear or read about this more than maybe some other places in the country. So if you're getting a hunting license or a fishing license, or if you have a problem at a national park or some kind of a state park, the DNR are the law enforcement for these parks and natural places. The DOD, Department of Defense. Sometimes people will say DOD, but mostly they just say DOD. The DOJ is the Department of Justice. The DOT is the Department of Transportation. And then depending on your state, you'll have some other kind of DOT, like here in Minnesota, that we could say MnDOT, which is the Minnesota Department of Transportation. The EU stands for European Union, so we would say EU. We would say both letters. FBI for Federal Bureau of Investigation. FDA for the Food and Drug Administration. So if you're reading or listening to something about drugs, medicines, foods, you'll hear FDA a lot. FEMA. So we don't say FEMA, we say FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So these are the people who are responsible for organizing relief in a natural disaster or some other kind of emergency national situation. IRS, Internal Revenue Service. So these are the people we pay taxes to in the government, and we pronounce it as IRS. NASA, not NASA, we say NASA for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So these are the space people in the United States. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So this is a kind of a defense treaty between many countries in the North Atlantic. So the United States, Canada, most European countries. OSHA. So we don't say OSHA, we say OSHA. And OSHA is Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So you might hear this or see this in your workplace, especially when it comes to safety and safety rules. TSA for Transportation Security Administration. So we say TSA, and you'll see them especially at airports. And the UN for the United Nations. So we don't say UN, we say UN. USPS for United States Postal Service. Don't confuse this with UPS. UPS is the United Parcel Service, so that's actually a business. The USPS is the actual government postal service. The VA is the Department of Veterans Affairs, so we say VA. All right, thanks for watching.